Hey there, fellow Swamp Titans, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Reus 2, Episode 2, Lush Rainforests. So, we have just completed our first era. And now we're embarking on the next era. And we have a choice. So there are... And this is somewhat of an important choice, and I want to explain it before I put up the poll. So, every time you approach an era, fulfilling the era's goals will unlock new cards, or rather new bioticum for you, and then also add to your profile's total score, which unlocks a whole lot of new things, like abilities to boost tiles, or abilities to add, expand the map to have more terrain, or to add mountains or creeks for extra bonuses, or new giants, like getting a frost giant or a savanna giant, so on and so forth. So here you can see that we have era quests. So for instance, the Calm era just has us get a score of 30. The Iron Age era has us get, 10 science on the planet and 4 minerals on the planet. I've kind of already done that. I've already done the Calm era too. The Age of Philosophy has us getting 12 technology on the planet. The Monument Age has us, the Miner leader requires 8 wealth. And the Neolithic Revolution requires that the cities have at least 3 population and have 5 unique planets on the plants on this planet. So all of these different eras, if completed, your completion is rated in stars, either 0 stars, which you will receive no extra unlocked cards, 1 star, 2 star, or 3 star. So for instance, and this isn't necessarily possible to do in the tutorial, but if we 3-star, let's say, if we 3-star the Iron Age, there won't be an advantage to doing the Iron Age again. Basically, what the game wants you to do is to get 3 stars on every single possible era. And this is the first era, and there are more eras to come after this. So you get, there's a whole bunch of eras in order to get all 3 stars on, and the later stage eras are a lot harder to do, and often require you to make a lot more progress in the game to gain stronger bioticum, apex bioticum, more upgrades, maybe even different giants, so on and so forth. So here's the choices. We can do Calm Era, which is always available. We could do Iron Age, which is only available when you have at least 3 technology and 2 minerals. We can do Age of Philosophy, which is only available because the technology must be your highest planet stat. We can do the Monument Age, which is available because one of the cities must have at least 4 wealth, which it does. And then lastly, we can do the Neolithic Revolution, and it's available because I have 2 cities with at least 3 population. So these eras are also available to you depending on the required prerequisites that you fulfilled. So if you want to gain access to the other eras, because there are more eras that aren't even available here, you would have to fulfill the requirements ahead of time. So sometimes it's helpful to know what the era's requirements are, but that is important much later on when you're trying to be completionist, when you're attempting to 3-star these individual eras. So by small margin, it looks like we're going to do the Age of Philosophy. Oh, actually, it just tied with Iron Age. So, I'm going to pick Age of Philosophy anyway. All right, we'll confirm that. Okay. Reus 2 has a lot more mechanics and nuances to learn, and it would be possible to learn them all at once. Instead, learn them at your own pace. The most important tip, almost everything has a tooltip explaining it. Hover over everything you see or find odd. It's bound to give you more precise information. Enjoy the exploration. So, the Age of Philosophy. In the top left, we have these stars here. The first star I've already met, which is to have at least 12 science on the planet. So right now I'm working on the meaning of life, and it requires there to be 12 population on the planet, and I already have 11 of that. So it's going to be really easy to get the next star of the Age of Philosophy. So all I would need to do for that would be to add a little bit more food anywhere. I mean, I'm talking anywhere. So, I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure out, let's see. I'm going to add a bunny here next to the pangolin. And the reason is the pangolin gets a bonus for each adjacent different type of bioticum. And the last bioticum not adjacent to the pangolin would be an animal, because I already have plants here and minerals here. So a bunny here not only adds food, but it also increases the bonus that the pangolin depends upon. And Dennis Key, thank you for the gifted subs. And Trucking Life, and Aesgear, and Boba Bashug, and Van Deathheart, and Memtide for the subs. Cheers. So if you take a look, this pangolin now has 3 times harmony. And I have just completed the 2nd star of the Age of Philosophy. And the final star is that I have a total score of 80. And I'm at 78. So I'm basically almost 100% of the way done. So instead, what I'm going to have you guys do is help me choose the inspirations and then also fulfill the city requests. So this is the Sage's inspiration. Again, for reference, the Sage is food-based in a forest. So here are the choices. I could do a herder's hut to have at least 2 herbivore biotica within the borders, and I already have 2 of the 4 required. I could do a fruit picker if there is at least up to 4 fruit biotica within the borders, and I already have 1. I have blueberries here. I could do the ocean shrine if there are distinct ocean biotica within the borders, and I am not that close to the ocean, so that might not be the best choice. And then farm if there are 2 or 4 undergrowth biotica within the borders, and I already have 1 of those. So these little, I know they're tiny, but this is 2x, this is 1x, this is 0x, and this is 1x. That's your progress towards the completed goal. And it looks like you guys want fruit picking? Or no? Yeah, I'm going to go with fruit picking, because that's what was leading at the time. So here we go. There's a fruit picker. Okay. The Sage Village will give me a draft if I raise its population to 10. So let's go ahead and do that. It also just annexed 4 tiles to the left, and none of those 4 tiles are being used at the moment. Now, I don't have a lot of variety of edible fruit. What I can do is have a 2nd copy of blueberries, and that will at least give the fruit picker 50 extra food from having 2 fruit within the borders. So here we go. We've now gained a total of 60 fruit, so 10 from the blueberries and 50 from the fruit picker. And then the blueberries gain extra when adjacent to minerals, so let's figure out what mineral we want to put adjacent to these blueberries. So the moss agate does have an adjacency bonus, so I'll just put moss agate down. I have now completed the Age of Philosophy fully, meaning that realistically, I could end the game right now by hitting this play looking button, and it would complete this planet, and I would complete the tutorial, but I want to attempt to fulfill the other city requests anyway, because I would gain drafts from them, and that could be useful to have. So the Sage Village request just got fulfilled, and I gained a draft from it. So here are the choices. I can either improve forests or oceans. I will put my thumb on the scale a little bit and say that forests are probably the most beneficial because I have 2 towns centered in forests and 0 towns centered on the ocean. But the choice is yours. Since I already have technically won the tutorial scenario, it doesn't really matter if I pick something less efficient, but forest it is. And the only thing I can pick here is an apple tree, but that actually works really well to my advantage because we need fruit in this biome. So having a new fruit source is pretty useful. So what I'm going to do is put down the apple tree right here next to the blueberries. And these apple trees gain adjacency bonuses for adjacent fruit. But the population here in Tree Valley Garden is already going to be ridiculously high from all the extra food here. So instead of increasing the amount of the strength of Tree Valley Garden, I'm going to focus on a different inventor. So these other ones are offering up upgrade slots to place higher level biotica, but that's locked in this tutorial, so those aren't things that matter. The drafts do matter, though. So let's go to the Inventor Town. So I'm going to send my giants over here and figure out how to raise its technology up to 20 and its unique biotica up to 8. So in terms of unique biotica, we have 2 copies of ash trees, which is less efficient than just the one. But we also potentially have a huge source of science by putting limestone down. But there's a problem with that. The limestone right now is being... so this limestone here required 3 biodiversity from the desert, meaning the desert is left with a total biodiversity of 1, because 3 of that limestone got taken up. So if I wanted to place another limestone, like let's say right here, in order to add a huge boon of science so that Flower Fort could benefit from it, the problem with that is I don't have the biodiversity within this desert for that. So in order to get that biodiversity, I would need to place stuff down here to add to the total biodiversity that is unique to the biome. It's also worth noting that the biodiversity... So I have 2 separate forests and 2 separate oceans, and the biodiversity of these 2 separate forests are different. So this forest, for instance, has a biodiversity of 6, and this forest, which is physically separated, has a biodiversity of just the 1. The reason I mention this is if you were wondering, hey, can I make the entire planet one giant forest? Hypothetically, you could, but it would be hugely detrimental because each individual forest will have its own biodiversity, meaning that the larger a forest is, the more effort will have to be put into having things be unique. So if everything was one giant forest, I really could only reasonably have, like, let's say, a single apple tree within that giant forest, and only one of the 3 cities would benefit from that apple tree. So it is not a very good idea to have the entire planet be one massive megabiome. It's like playing the game on super, super hard mode. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're welcome to try, but I would highly advise against it. So now what I'm doing is I'm placing down some critters here, and I'm doing it in such a way that it is also beneficial to my other goal. So taking a look here, the Minor Town wants a wealth of 15, and I'm putting a predator out here, and the predator has a gold bonus, and I'm hoping that the Red Oasis fountain spreads westward to capture this predator to add wealth to its borders to work on the other goal that I have. And I'm going to put another desert cat here as well, because it will benefit from synergy with the rattlesnake. So the rattlesnake has small predator, be adjacent to at least 1 critter, and competitive, be adjacent to at least 1 predator. And then the sand cat has rogue, if there's at least 1 critter within the biome, and also barren. That's a bonus that doesn't make any sense just yet, because it plays a role later on. And just as I had hoped, a Red Oasis Foundation fountain is adding this territory to its terrain, which will raise Minor Town's wealth, and also it adds the biodiversity to the biome, getting me closer to being able to place the limestone, which requires a biodiversity of 5. So the next thing I want to do is switch to my planter, and I'm going to switch where the fan palm is, and I'll explain why. So the fan palm, the limestone that I benefit from here does not want to be adjacent to other rocks. So if I isolate the limestone as far away from the rest of the desert as possible, I can place minerals here, and it won't be adjacent to that limestone. Where if I placed it here, none of the other 2 tiles here in the desert could be minerals. And then to prevent adjacency, this tile either has to be plants or animals. It cannot be minerals because it would be adjacent to the limestone. So I will put a jerboa here. And then the other type of desert plant, which adds biodiversity bonus. So this should go up to 6. Perfect. And now, there is plenty of additional biodiversity here for me to put a second limestone, raising the science of Inventor Town considerably. So now this has a 113 science, all going to Flower Fort, raising the Inventor's Town's technology needs. And not only that, but Flower Fort is also adding this territory to their terrain. So at this point, there's no more spreading into this desert. Red Oasis and Flower Fort have claimed all of the terrain tiles. The Inventor Town is going to be just shy of 18 technology. So I'm going to try to get it up to 20, which is its request threshold. It is also, let me hide this. It is also 3 out of the 4, or no, actually it is fully woodcutting, so never mind, I take that back. I think it is trading, is setting up a trade route with an adjacent city to spread its inventions, which is another bonus, or benefit of inventions. So I need a little bit more science out of this, so let's figure out how I get that science. The bamboo gains additional science if adjacent to other plants, but I already have bamboo in this forest, so it wouldn't help with my biodiversity, nor would ash trees. So the problem is that the 2 things that would be the most obvious picks to add science would not help biodiversity, but my biodiversity is rather high, so I might do that anyway by putting bamboo here and ash trees here. And then 1 more bamboo in this spot, so that all of the adjacency bonuses are reached with these 2 bamboo. So these 2 bamboo are adjacent to one another. And this city has a science now of almost 20. It's not quite there, and I might not actually be able to get there with the eon I have left, because I only have 3 eon left, meaning I can't place down something new, unfortunately. So this might be as far as I get in this tutorial planet, but it's still pretty good in the scheme of things, I think. Oh no, I have enough eon for 1 more placement. I'm gonna place 1 more thing out here. Now my turns are done. Flower Fort is still hesitant to spread, so they're not going to capture this stuff and hit their technology to 20, unfortunately. So we will conclude the planet and move on with the tutorial. The people have discovered the meaning of life. So that was the end result of the Age of Philosophy. Seems like he discovered that there is no meaning to life with that symbol over his head. So the Age of Philosophy was 3-starred. And my session had a score of 104, and I had 4 distinct biomes, so my final score was 108. And then the stars that I got will unlock new Boudica for me. So 1 will be ocean, 1 will be desert, and 1 will be forest. So I'll unpack them 1 at a time so we can actually see what they are. So here's the ocean one. We've got pearls. So pearls require a biodiversity of 3 and add a hell of a lot of gold if adjacent to the coasts and only can be placed in shallows. It is a critter, a gem, and a reef, which is the modifiers. Also Jasper. It gains gold if adjacent to animals, and Sea Crate, which can only be placed in the shallows and gains gold if adjacent to another critter. So here's the desert. Ostrich. So the ostrich has a unique ability, which is called Running Spree. Essentially, if the adjacent tiles are quote-unquote empty, it gains a food and gold bonus. An empty tile might be something like mud cracks. So if you can see under the mud crack it says barren, counts as an empty slot. If you have an ostrich next to mud cracks, the mud crack raises the ostrich's running spree. So ostriches are a little bit difficult to use as an apex biotica, but if you can use them well, they do provide a big bonus. And the reason they're a little unique is, generally speaking, the deserts are hard to produce food. So catering to the ostrich's running spree allows deserts to derive more food than they otherwise would. And then it also unlocks the sound grouse, which counts as an empty tile and outputs food. So both of these are empty, quote-unquote empty tiles, which allows the ostrich to run free. And the last reward is for forests. And we gained Intimidity. So it's in the forest, it gains a lot of science for each adjacent boticum that has a base science yield. So if you put, like, let's say bamboo and ash trees next to Antinomy, you'll gain a lot more science off of it. So that's a big one. Tin. So tin gains science if adjacent to plants, and white willow, which gains science for each adjacent tree. These are all really useful because up until now, there was a pretty limited amount of science that we could get from a forest, and forests tend to be what, like, I colonize like 2/3 of my cities on, so this is a really useful reward. And then at the end of this, we can leave the planet. And if we ever want to go back to the planet, we can. So as a result of the 108 score that I received, our profile level is going up. And I will, I'll review these bonuses once it's done rewarding me with them, because obviously it's panning way too fast for me to explain. Alright, so let's go back to reward number 2. Now I can choose between the forest giant or the swamp giant, and the swamp giant creates rainforests. So the forest giant focuses on food production. The swamp giant focuses on biodiversity production. So the rainforest is tree and biodiversity specific. And that says right there. All right, profile level 3, the second era. So we just played through the first era, which was the Age of Philosophy, which, if you think about the eras, and this is going to be a huge generalization, but generally the first era would be like around ancient Egypt to ancient Greek times. So we're talking like 4000 to 0 BCE time frame. And then the second era is generally medieval ages to late Renaissance, but pre-Victorian. And then there's a third era that unlocks much later on, if we can pan over here. Where is the third era? Third era at profile level 10, which is sort of like Victorian era to modern times. So like blasting rockets off into space level era. All right, but back to what we unlocked. Upgrade patches. So what upgrade patches allows you to do is certain biotica, all the biotica that we have had so far have been level 1 biotica. Upgrade patches allows you to upgrade the terrain from level 1 to level 2 to support more advanced biotica, but you can only upgrade patches in era 2. So in the first era, you're restricted to level 1 biotica, and once you reach the second era, you can start using upgrade patches to get level 2 biotica, which are far, far more synergy and symbiosis and powerful if used properly. So as you can see, then the last reward here is 2-star biotica. It is worth noting just my own 2 cents for strategy-wise, having a wide array of level 1 biotica will set you up in a much better position to succeed than stacking all your rewards and draft cards to level 2. So when we get drafts during planet terraforming, if we focus on only unlocking level 2 biotica, that does not help us in the first era and will actually make it really challenging to succeed, because if you don't win your first era, you don't gain full stars for credit. So I only mention this because we're going to start to see in the draft cards level 2 rewards, but I would say, at least for this stream, spending maybe like 2/3 of our drafts on level 1 stuff is probably the most ideal. Because if you spend it all on level 2 stuff, you can only use the level 2 stuff in half of your terraforming, if you're restricted to second age. So you have the first age and second age. So if you only unlock second age stuff, you can't use it in the first age, whereas you can still use the first age stuff in the second age, so it's a little bit more useful. And then profile level 4, the planet shop. So the planet shop allows you, if you're not spending your population, technology, and wealth to unlock additional Eon, so that you have more turns in an era, you can spend it on other things, like buying draft charges. So you can simply just buy an extra draft charge if you want to advance a specific biome. All right. And then if we ever want to revisit a planet, here is the planet. And we can go back to it if we want to, like, continue. There's not much reason to do it because all of the points that we got off of this are already awarded. So let's instead create a new planet. So in this new planet, I can choose one of 4 leaders, well, 3 leaders in random. So we can either be the sage, we can be the inventor again, we can be the goddess, or I can just hit random. And I'll leave this up to you. So we've already played through the inventor, but you're welcome to choose it if you want it again. And I will also note that, like, if we go to the profile, where is the profile here? If we go to the profile, you can see that we're 1 profile level away from unlocking the Huntress and Pirate Queen spirits. And then we did just unlock the Rainforest, which I'm assuming you guys are going to want me to choose. But you, at level 7, get the Taiga, and then you get the Safari, or Savannah, rather. And then eventually new spirits at level 13. And the game's still in development, so there's still more profile level bonuses to be obtained. Alright, so you guys want me to just pick random? Got it. And just to show off the difference between forest and rainforest, I'm going to choose the rainforest spirit. Or the giant, the swamp giant. I will say that because of all the bonuses, we have mostly been unlocking forest stuff. So it's actually a bit in my disadvantage to jump straight to the rainforest because I don't have a lot of rainforest cards, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm sure you'd be interested in that. Over here, you can also pick the final era. So I'm going to pick the medieval era so we can go up to era level 2 instead of level 1. So this will be less of a capped planet. And the tutorial quest will no longer be on. So it'll be up to us. So here we go. Let's start making rainforests. So first things first, I'm going to have this swamp giant put a nice rainforest down for us. And on the edge of the rainforest, I'll put an ocean and a mountain. Let's do a 3-size ocean and a 2-size desert. Actually, I'm going to have a rather larger desert. We'll have someone have specific desert biomes for this round. Just like last time. Another rainforest, and then another micro ocean. And then once we're done terraforming, have them head back to the sage settlement. So I ended up with the sage. So as a result of having the sage, plants will have bonus food. So we're going to be food central, at least initially. And let's settle here. An odd choice to be a little bit off-center, but I hope to utilize more ocean this round than last. So that we can show off like dual biomes within one range. So the reason I did that is the sage's bonus here is that he gains extra food from mystery, and you mostly get mystery from ocean tiles, so there's a bit of synergy there. And it takes a look, and we have a super booster here in the ocean, so I could really take advantage of that. So the Sage Settlement's first requirement is a population of 3, and it will give me a draft card, and it will give me nomads to be able to settle a new zone. So let's go ahead and put a papaya tree down. And then a Ramon tree, which adds extra biodiversity. So we'll have a biodiversity of 3, even with just 2 things planted. Which then boosts the papaya tree for extra food. Raising this food up to 3 and fulfilling the city's request. Alright, we have a lot going on. The first thing I'm going to do is have you guys choose the next spirit. So the goddess spirit is particularly interested in gold, and its bonus is extra gold and food for mysteries. And the hunter spirit is mostly interested in gold and food, and it is spirited, so extra food for mysteries. What I will say, again, thumb on the scale a little bit, is focusing on one type of resource is easiest. So the sage is food-based, so the huntress is also food-based. Spreading them out too far spreads your draft cards too thin. So if I have one person interested in technology, one person interested in food, and one person interested in gold, my draft cards won't benefit more than just one person at a time, which makes the game a little bit more challenging. Whereas if all 3 leaders like food, then the draft cards I choose can all just be food-based, and I don't have to worry about satisfying the other leaders. So you don't have to play that way, but it is very useful to sort of have a specific resource that you want to focus on to make it a bit easier. So we're going to call the Huntress, and I'm going to put the Huntress in the Rainforest because it doesn't make sense to put the Huntress in the... Actually, you know what? I take that back. It actually does make sense to put the Huntress in the desert because the desert does have a pretty decent amount of animals. So we'll put that over there. And then the next thing to choose here is the Inspiration. So we have 4 potential inspirations. We have the Fruit Picker for fruit within the borders. We have the Ocean Shrine for ocean bottica within the borders. It's worth noting that this city is on the ocean, so the ocean now might be a good time for the ocean bottica inspiration for the Ocean Shrine, but it's up to you. Then we have the Herder's Hut for herbivores within the borders, or the Farm for undergrowth bottica within the borders. And that can be up to you. But it looks like Ocean Shrine is. So we're going to have our starting city here. I actually don't even know what the city is called. Fernville? I'm going to call this Oceanville. Oceanville will be more ocean-centric. And then the Hunter Settlement is the West Sands Fountain. Let's use that booster slot, shall we? So one of the things that we... actually, let's do our draft first. And have you choose the draft. Because that might change... If you pick Ocean, it might change the available cards I have for Ocean. Specifically, if we get pearls, that might be a big deal. Or tuna. Tuna would be even a bigger deal, I think, because we're food-centric. Alright, so here's the 3 choices. There's pearls, which is good for money. The anemones, which is good for mystery and science. Or the tuna, which is good for food. And I did put my thumb on the scale once again. I said tuna would be a really big deal because it would be. So we're going to get the tuna. So the tuna is an apex biotica, meaning that it needs a biodiversity requirement to be able to be placed. The tuna, if we take a look, gains extra food for each adjacent fish. So what I'm planning on doing is placing a bunch of fish around this booster slot and then putting the tuna in the booster slot for the most bang for my buck. So the herring, I could put down. I could also put down anchovy, which gains biodiversity for adjacent anchovy. So putting 2 anchovies down might not be a bad choice. So I'll do that for a little bonus biodiversity and synergy. And I know it's out of the zone. It's fine. And now I can put the tuna down. It's already next to 2 fish. So this thing is going to be raking in the food. So this tuna slot has a food of 90, which I think is the highest number that we've seen so far. And that is easily going to fulfill the Sage's village request of getting a population of up to 10. Like, with flying colors, I think. Alright, let's go ahead and fulfill the hunter settlements. Yep, there we go. Sage Village just maxed out. And we gained a draft. So, let's choose 1 or 3. 1 would be rainforest, 3 would be desert. And we're going to head over to the huntress's settlement to try to satisfy her hunting requirements. But you guys want desert? Copy that. And then here are your 3 choices. So we've got lapis lazuli, which is gold-based, limestone, which is science-based, or ostrich, which is food and gold-based. Again, reminder, the huntress is food and gold-based, so she benefits from things that are good for food or gold. And the ostrich happens to be both. So we're going to go ostrich. Copy that. And I can show you the challenge of designing a biome around ostriches, but that should be fun. So, city request. The huntress settlement wants a population of 3 and 2 animals within the borders. So what would be good is if I planned around having the ostrich have a really good running spree. So if we take a look at the sand grouse counts as a empty slot. This sand cat counts as an empty slot. The jerboa does not. The sagebrush plant does count as an empty slot. The mudcrack counts as an empty slot. And that is it. So now we know all the empty slot stuff. I'm going to put sagebrush down first, because the sagebrush has a bonus of biodiversity, allowing me to place the ostrich immediately thereafter, because it has a biodiversity bonus of 1. All right, so I'm going to put the ostrich here. Here. Actually, no. Put it here. So putting the ostrich down, these totally empty slots already they're empty, so they count as running spree. So this ostrich already has a running spree of 4. And then I can put, like, let's say a sand grouse down. And that will fulfill the 2 animal requirement within the borders, giving us another settler and another draft. Thank you for tuning in to Reus 2, which originally streamed live on Twitch August 6th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow giants.